Hey, I need to talk to you about something, I said, gathering my courage. Can we cut back on having your mom over every weekend? My husband let out a deep sigh. Lisa, it feels like you're always saying no to everything. What do you mean by that? I asked, a bit taken aback. You don't want me to build a house. You don't want my mom coming over. You're always against something. That's not what I meant. I tried to explain. Then what did you mean? How much longer do we have to keep waiting? My name is Lisa, and I've been married to Frank for 5 years. We share a common dream, owning our own home. Now that we've saved enough for a down payment, we're finally ready to leave behind renting and move into the home I've always envisioned. Once we're settled, we plan to start a family and raise our children in a place that truly belongs to us. But just as our hopes were growing, a dark cloud appeared on the horizon. My mother-in-law, who had caught wind of our plans, began making some rather unsettling moves. So, I hear you're finally buying a house, she said. Yes, that's right, I replied. Have you already decided on what kind of home you want? Yes, I have an idea of what we want, I said. That's wonderful. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Thank you, I appreciate that. Oh, by the way, have you checked out the showroom near your house? No, we haven't managed to get an appointment there yet, I replied. Well, I'll take care of that for you. We can go together. Actually, I prefer to go with just my husband, I said, trying to be polite. Despite my efforts, my mother-in-law continued to involve herself in our property search. She even started showing up unannounced. I brought you a brochure for some land that's for sale, she said one day, catching me off guard. Thank you very much. My mother-in-law held a dozen leaflets in her hand, eager to share them. How about this one? It's close to the station and spacious enough for 2 families. Wait, did she just say 2 families? I was too stunned to respond, and she continued talking as if nothing was amiss. If the train station isn't nearby, it's inconvenient for everything, and you'll want to be close to a hospital for when you get older. This property is also near a supermarket. It must be hard for you to choose with so many options, right? What started as an offer to help quickly turned into her taking control of the house search. She was making decisions as if she planned to live there too. This is not good at all. I told my husband everything that had happened that night. Oh, I think she might have mentioned something about living together, he said casually. What? You want us all to live together? I asked, surprised. Well, if you're okay with it, I'm not going to push you into anything, don't worry. I felt blindsided by his response. If I'm okay with it? No, I'm not. I couldn't believe he was being so indecisive. When it's time to tell my mother-in-law that we're not living together, I'm going to be the one dealing with the fallout. Why can't he see that? Maybe we should stop building the house, I suggested, feeling frustrated. What? Why? He asked, clearly confused. Because of the way you phrased it. If I refuse to live with her, she'll know I was the one who said no. We're going to be together for a long time, and I don't want things to become awkward. I'd rather not have a house if it means dealing with that. We can raise our kids in a rental and use the down payment we save for their education instead. My husband's panic was evident. Wait a minute, I understand now. I'll tell her no, and we'll move forward with building the house. No, it's fine. You can't even stand up to your mother. I'd never seen him stand up to his mother before. Trust me, I'll handle it, he said, trying to reassure me. Why are you so desperate? He asked, sounding puzzled. I want to live in our own house and raise our children there, I replied. You didn't seem so enthusiastic about it before. That's not true. I was excited. It's hurtful to say otherwise. I feel just as strongly about our children. All right, I understand. My husband promised he would tell his mother no, but given his usual hesitation, I doubted he'd follow through. However, the day after our conversation, my mother-in-law stopped pressuring us and even called to apologize. Lisa, I got scolded by Frank. He told me he wants to live with you alone. I'm sorry for pushing my opinions on you, my mother-in-law said. I was surprised to hear that Frank had actually stood up to her. He could speak his mind when it mattered. Still, I couldn't shake a lingering suspicion. When I told my husband about the apology, he had a satisfied grin on his face. See? When I say I'll speak up, I mean it. What's with that look in your eyes? I asked, puzzled. I was wondering if you really told her, I said, still unsure. Are you doubting me? Isn't that awful? He replied, hurt. I haven't seen you stand up to your mother in 5 years, and you didn't do it in front of me. That's unfair. I tried so hard. You're right, I'm sorry. But you're sweating like crazy. What's going on? Oh, it's just hot. Isn't it a bit warm today? It's the middle of winter. By the way, let's finalize the house contract. You really want to build this house, don't you? Of course I do. That's what we've been saving for. At this point, I had lost interest in building the new house, the dream home I had worked so hard to save for. My enthusiasm had dwindled due to my mother-in-law's behavior and my husband's attitude, making me feel as if all my efforts had been in vain. I found myself stepping back from the idea. Meanwhile, my husband continued to insist on building the house. 6 months had passed since our dispute, and although he kept talking about it, I remained unconvinced. My mother-in-law, who had been quiet, was now growing impatient. She started visiting our house frequently. While she never mentioned the house, her attitude became increasingly arrogant. Both my husband and I work full-time, and we both have weekends off. Lately, my mother-in-law has been coming over to our house every weekend. I could manage if it were just once a month, but her frequent visits are making me uncomfortable. My husband seems to be quite pleased with the arrangement, but it's becoming a problem for me. I'd like to have some peace on Saturdays and Sundays, but she arrives at 7 in the morning and blasts the TV at an incredibly loud volume. If I try to stay in bed, she paces back and forth in front of my room. My husband is busy taking care of her, which should be enough. When I finally gave in and got up at 7:30, she remarked, "How can you sleep in with a guest over? She stays until late on Sunday night, and it's starting to wear me down." My husband remains silent about his mother's behavior, and whenever I think of him, the word divorce crosses my mind. However, I want to avoid that if at all possible. I needed to find a way to improve the situation. "Hey, I need you to stop having your mother over every weekend," I said, expressing my feelings directly. He let out a deep sigh. "Lisa, you always seem to be against everything. What do you mean by that? You don't want to build a house, you don't want my mother visiting. You're against everything." "That's not how I meant it." "Then what did you mean? How long do we have to wait for?" "You just said we. What did you mean by that? Who else is waiting?" I asked, confused. "What do you mean?" "You said we just now," I clarified. My husband's face turned red and he began to sweat. "I didn't say that. Maybe I misheard. But we can't build a house if your mother keeps coming over every weekend like this." "Why not?" "Because I can't relax. If my parents came over every weekend, would you be able to rest?" "Your parents won't come. They have such a nice house." "I'm fed up with this nonsense," I said, frustrated. "That's not the issue here," he retorted. "I don't even care about the house anymore. I'm going to invite my parents to stay with us next week." My husband's voice rose. "Absolutely not." "Why not?" "Because it's too exhausting. Don't invite your parents. My mother is the only one who can visit. This is my house too. I'm the head of the house. If you can't follow my rules, then leave." "Are you serious?" "You're completely useless to me. I'm done with you. You can't make my mother happy, and if we can't build a house, she can't live with us." "You promised she wouldn't live with us." "What are you talking about? Once the house was built, we could do whatever we wanted, including having my mother live with us." "What do you mean?" "I've told you this before, and you still don't understand. I planned to have my mother move in once the house was built." I knew it. My mother-in-law didn't back down easily. My husband was plotting with her all along. "I see now. All right, I'll leave." "I hope you won't regret this," he said. "Of course not. Just don't come near me again," I replied firmly. I packed only the essentials and went to my parents' house. They were taken aback by my sudden arrival, but once I explained what had happened, they welcomed me with open arms. "This is what family is for, right? I suppose our relationship was damaged from the start when I couldn't trust my husband," I said. "Dad, I'm so sorry," I added, feeling the weight of my actions. "I understand things didn't work out between you two, but work and personal life are separate issues." "Yes, I agree. So my ex-husband and I are now divorced. There were no money claims or financial disputes, just a straightforward division of property. But 3 months have passed, and now my ex-husband is on his knees in front of me. "I'm sorry, father-in-law," he says. "I'm not your father anymore. Be careful what you call me." Boss, is this a result of me divorcing your daughter?" "What are you talking about?" Why did my ex-husband come all the way to my parents' house and get down on his knees? It's because he received an unwanted transfer. Both of us worked for my father's company, and he seems to believe the transfer was a consequence of our divorce. However, my father made it clear during the divorce that personal matters had no bearing on work decisions. All employees at his company are assigned to regional posts for a few years to enhance their skills, and transfers are never used as a form of punishment. But that explanation doesn't seem to satisfy my ex-husband. Lisa, you need to stop the boss. I thought you told me never to show my face again. I'm sorry, please, he begged. No, this isn't an obligation. I was once in line to be the next president, remember? I can't believe you interrupted me with such nonsense. You're mistaken. I'm still the next president, regardless of our divorce. What? Of course, I'm his daughter. My ex-husband nodded and left our house. The next day, he submitted his resignation, despite people around him trying to explain that the transfer wasn't a demotion. He refused to listen. A few days later, he was found in an unexpected place. I was casually watching a documentary on TV when I saw my ex-husband featured on the program. He appeared in line at a volunteer organization for a meal donation, looking disheveled and poorly dressed. Life can be unpredictable. It made me reconsider the word regret that I once said to him. I'm sure he regrets his actions now. The fact that he was holding 2 meal containers suggested that one was meant for his mother. Although I don't know all the details, it's clear that his life has drastically changed from what it once was. As for me, I'm thriving on my own. My weekdays are filled with work, but I relish my days off. It's a true blessing to sleep soundly without morning disruptions. I am living in a state of happiness and contentment. It was the unexplained coldness of her ex-husband that had caused her so much pain, a pain she struggled to convey to others. She wished she could use that experience as a shield to say no to her in-laws. Lisa, you did an excellent job. I hope you're able to enjoy your time on your own now. My name is Jennifer, a 32-year-old professional. My husband, Donnie, is 30 and also employed. We got married 2 years ago. Donnie might seem a bit unreliable at times, but he's a kind-hearted person and quite capable of managing the household chores. I'm a career-driven woman, finding fulfillment in my work and the achievements it brings. I work in the New York metropolitan area, a place where hard work is recognized and rewarded. However, the possibility of relocations looms and there is no established policy for maternity or parental leave. Many female employees tend to resign upon marriage or starting a family. Initially, I also preferred my career over domestic life and had no plans of getting married. When Donnie proposed, expressing his desire to marry me, I initially turned him down. I love my job, I said. I'm a section chief now, but I want to climb higher. I can't picture settling down or having kids. However, Donnie understood my ambitions and promised we would share the housework and not have children. His understanding nature eventually won me over, and I agreed to marry him. Although we both work and sometimes don't divide the chores exactly as planned, we support each other and manage pretty well. We face some annoying comments from my in-laws like, you should prioritize your home over your work, or aren't you going to have kids? But it's not too troublesome since Donnie always stands up for me. Living with Donnie has been a pleasant experience, and I've come to appreciate the beauty of married life. Then one day, my supervisor, the department manager, called me in to discuss a potential transfer to a branch office. He said, "What do you think? The position is at a regional branch, but you'll be back at headquarters after 2 years. You'll be a section chief at the new location, and if you keep up the good work, a promotion is guaranteed upon your return. You could even become the first female department head. Not a bad offer, right?" Accepting or rejecting this transfer would significantly impact my career. In our company, everyone who has advanced to department manager or higher has undergone a transfer. Refusing could mean staying at the section chief level with the risk of demotion or being moved to an irrelevant position. Before marriage, I would have jumped at this opportunity without hesitation. But now, as a married woman, I felt a bit restrained. I told my department manager, "Thank you for considering me. Personally, I would like to view this positively. However, since it involves a transfer, I need to discuss it with my husband. Could I get back to you after that?" He replied, "Oh, right, you're married. You can choose between going alone or moving with your family. Discuss it thoroughly. I'll be expecting a positive answer." When I got home, I talked to Donnie about it. "I've been offered a transfer," I explained. I might have to go to the countryside, but if I work hard for 2 years, I can return here. If I continue to perform well, I can get promoted. I want to accept this offer if you're okay with it, Donnie. We can either move together, or I can go alone. What do you think? Donnie seemed surprised at first, but after some thought, he said, "Your dream can come true if you accept this transfer, right, Jennifer? I can't move with you because of my job here, but don't worry about me. Go for it." With Donnie's encouragement, I informed the company that I would be moving alone for the transfer and began negotiating the terms and conditions. The company agreed to cover my relocation expenses. Additionally, they offered to treat my commute days home from the remote location as on-duty time and provided a decent benefits package. These factors convinced me to accept the transfer to the branch office. After receiving the official transfer order, I made the decision to relocate to the countryside. I found out I could rent a company apartment at a reasonable price, so that's where I opted to live. On the day of the move, the movers had already transported my belongings, and my husband came to see me off at the station. "Thanks for seeing me off. I'll keep in touch regularly and try to come home as often as I can." "Yeah, I'll be waiting. Just because you're working remotely, don't overdo it." "Same goes for you. It's time to go. Take care." "Okay, I'm heading out." And so, my journey as a remote employee began. I had initially planned to return home during extended holidays and quieter periods, but trouble soon arose at the branch office shortly after my transfer. I can't take orders from a woman. I don't trust someone who just appeared out of nowhere. I encountered resistance from the local employees who refused to acknowledge my authority. Baseless rumors circulated about me, my directives were ignored, and even my phone calls went unanswered. In the midst of this, a serious mistake occurred in a project that one of my subordinates had been overseeing, deliberately excluding me from the process. The subordinate responsible was visibly shaken. Naturally, as their supervisor, I took full responsibility. I found myself consumed with rectifying the issue, offering apologies, not only to regain lost ground, but also to mend relations with my team. Witnessing my challenges, my supervisor offered some guidance. "I've been through a transfer myself, so I understand what you're going through. It might feel unjust, but you can't simply impose your authority here. Effective communication, empathy, and building relationships laterally are key." Taking my supervisor's words to heart, I focused on forging horizontal connections by spending more time with everyone at the branch. Despite not initially being part of the neighborhood association, I discovered that the company's rental housing fell under its umbrella, prompting me to join. Before I realized it, I found myself struggling to carve out personal time and often unable to return to my home, where my husband patiently awaited my return. I kept in touch with my husband, but after a few months of remote work, it became increasingly difficult to reach him at night via phone or text. "I'm stuck at the office late every day. It's chaos," he'd explain. Exhausted, I often found myself drifting off to sleep. His explanations seemed plausible, and amidst my own busy schedule, I didn't think much of it, focusing my energy on my work. Even during a rare slow period, when I decided to return to our home in New York on short notice, I couldn't reach him. So, I abruptly left my remote location and headed home. Upon opening the door, a strange feeling enveloped me. A woman I didn't recognize dashed to greet me, saying, "Justin, welcome back. If only I'd known you were coming home early, I would have prepared." The woman and I stood frozen, staring at each other in disbelief. Eventually, she broke the silence. "May I ask who you are? And who might you be?" "This is my home," I replied firmly. "There must be some misunderstanding. I live in this house," she insisted. After a feeble exchange of arguments, we decided to step outside to verify the house number. To my astonishment, the nameplate displayed the custom one I had ordered. "The key fits, and the nameplate is correct. This is my house. I'm going in," I declared. "Wait, what are you doing?" "Stop," she protested. Ignoring her protests, I pushed past and entered the house. Once inside, I immediately noticed the drastic changes. New curtains, different furniture, a complete overhaul of the interiors. In the living room, a framed photo captured my husband and the woman at a theme park. The kitchen held mugs unfamiliar to me, while the bathroom revealed strange toothbrushes and skincare products. Even the shower boasted women's shampoo and conditioner. As I inspected further, the bed linen sported a design I didn't recognize, and the wardrobe held only the woman's clothes, with none of mine in sight. My husband's belongings were tucked away in a room at the back of the house, as if the woman had seamlessly moved in and taken over while I stood there in shock. I swung the front door open. "I'm back. Lola, did you invite a friend over?" I asked. "Justin, thank goodness you're here. This woman just walked in like she owns the place," Lola exclaimed. The man the woman referred to as Justin was undoubtedly my husband. Catching sight of me, he looked taken aback. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "Donnie, since when did you go by Justin? Can you explain what's happening?" I confronted him. "What are you talking about? This is Justin, isn't it, Justin?" he replied hesitantly. "Well, you see, caught between us, my husband appeared flustered. "Lola, this man's real name is Donnie. Isn't that what's on your driver's license? And I'm Donnie's wife, Jennifer," I interjected. "That's not true. He told me he was divorced," Lola retorted. "Donnie, you need to explain everything clearly," I demanded. "Jennifer, you were hardly ever home, and I felt lonely. So I thought I'd give a dating app a try and met Lola," Donnie confessed. "I see. So Justin is your alias on the dating app?" I inquired. "No, it's not like that. I was worried about using my real name, so I used a fake one. But I kept my last name," Donnie explained. "And why lie about being divorced?" In Lola's dating app profile, she mentioned, "I've only ever attended all-girls schools and have never dated a man before. Looking for someone who's willing to be serious about a relationship with the goal of marriage." It really struck a chord with me, so I fibbed about being divorced to win Lola over, and we ended up moving in together. "Why on earth would you do that?" I exclaimed in disbelief. At that moment, my husband launched into a defense of his actions. "It's because you're always away for work. It's only natural for a man to crave companionship. We've been leading separate lives due to your demanding job and the overtime and weekend shifts. I just wanted a cozy home where my wife would be waiting for me with dinner ready," he explained defiantly. I was stunned by his confession, realizing that my perception of his supportiveness towards my career might have been misguided. "But that doesn't excuse what you did. Your actions were despicable. If you wanted to be with someone else, you should have had the decency to end our marriage first. Why didn't you do the right thing?" I demanded. "I cared for both of you. I never intended to leave either of you," my husband defended himself. "After everything you've done, it was inevitable that I would find out when I returned. It's beyond belief that you thought you could deceive me," I shot back. "Well, if you had kept your promise and returned home, none of this would have happened. Your absence pushed me to seek companionship elsewhere," he argued. "What nonsense. I've explained to you how demanding my work has been," I retorted. Our argument escalated into a heated exchange, with the woman my husband had been involved with standing there, visibly shaken. She realized she had been deceived by a married man and dragged into his deceitful game. "So it was all a lie? You've made a fool of me. I'm leaving right now," she declared, storming out. "Lola, please, just hear me out," my husband pleaded as he attempted to halt the other woman, who was hastily packing her belongings. "Don't you dare touch me with those deceitful hands of yours. I can't trust a single word that comes out of your mouth," she spat back, her voice laced with anger and betrayal. With a final curse directed at my husband, the other woman stormed out, heading for her parents' home. Fuming with anger and a desire for retribution, I resolved to punish my husband for his infidelity. Gathering evidence meticulously, I amassed a collection of proof to take back with me. Upon returning to my work assignment, I wasted no time in hiring a detective to uncover details about my husband's mistress. The investigation unearthed that she was the daughter of an executive at a company closely associated with my husband's business partner. Armed with this information, I instructed my lawyer to dispatch evidence of the affair to both my husband's residence and the other woman's parents. Upon receiving the incriminating documents, my husband vehemently protested, expressing his reluctance for a divorce. Unmoved by his pleas, I braced myself for a protracted legal battle, even considering the possibility of taking the matter to court. Unexpectedly, the other woman's family reached out to my lawyer, prompting us to arrange a meeting at their office. To my surprise, the other woman and her parents showed up, offering their sincerest apologies. "We are deeply sorry. Our daughter's actions have caused you immense trouble, and we take full responsibility for that. She has always been sheltered and quite naive about the world. Despite our efforts to arrange a marriage for her with someone we deemed suitable, she longed for a more liberated love. She met your husband without our knowledge and unfortunately got carried away without truly understanding who he was. She mentioned meeting a divorced man on a dating app and expressed a desire to move in with him. Despite our pleas for her to cease contact with him, she refused to listen. She became so entangled in her fantasies that she ran away from home to be with him. Upon realizing she was the other woman, she was devastated and has since sought therapy. We are prepared to offer you a settlement of $50,000, and we kindly request that you keep this matter confidential. With solemn expressions, the other woman and her parents extended their hands, shaking mine firmly. I appreciate your apology. However, I'll accept it under one condition. I'm in the process of pursuing a divorce, but my husband is unwilling to agree. If you're willing to cooperate by providing testimony if this escalates to a trial, then I'll agree to the settlement, I stated firmly. We agreed to cooperate, but we're concerned about our daughter's future. We prefer to avoid any permanent legal repercussions, they responded. Fortunately or unfortunately, my husband's workplace is a client of yours, I revealed. In an unexpected turn of events, the woman my husband had been unfaithful with and I formed an unlikely alliance. Together, we plotted to teach him a lesson. His workplace would soon face a crisis due to his altercation with an executive at one of their client companies. Naturally, all blame would fall squarely on my husband. Meanwhile, back at home, his parents remained oblivious to the turmoil, attempting to reach out to him as they always did. Jennifer isn't answering our calls, and she won't return them either. Is she so wrapped up in work that she's forgotten about us? When is she planning to come back? We miss seeing our grandchild, his mother lamented. Mom, you don't understand. I cheated on Jennifer while she was away on assignment, and now it seems like we're headed for a divorce, my husband confessed. His mother's response was surprising. That woman who neglects Donnie to focus on her job is to blame. Perhaps it's best if you break up with Jennifer and reconcile with the woman you had the affair with, she suggested. It became apparent that my in-laws had chosen to align themselves with the other woman's family, possibly because they perceived them as wealthier than ours. They launched a series of attacks against me, bombarding me with calls that I eventually had to block. Undeterred, they began calling me at work. When I refused to engage with them, they took matters a step further by showing up at my workplace, causing a commotion and creating a scene. Release our son. It's your fault for being such a career-focused woman that our son strayed. He'd be happier with his lover, so stop interfering, his parents demanded. In response, I exclaimed, "What are you talking about? I'm the one seeking a divorce from Donnie. He's the one resisting, and besides, the woman he cheated with has no interest in reconciling with him. He deceived the daughter of a business executive into a relationship, and they're rightfully upset. This is going to cause a lot of trouble." Upon realizing that their son had injured a significant client, my in-laws swiftly changed their tune and attempted to reconcile with me. Oh dear, we had no idea it had escalated to this point. We must have misunderstood. We apologize. Our son has acted foolishly, but he's regretful. You'll forgive him, won't you, Jennifer? They pleaded. I must decline. You've just criticized me, and now you expect me to forgive you. Please leave, I asserted firmly. Refusing to budge, they persisted, prompting me to have them escorted out by security. Their disruptive behavior led my company to take legal action against them for obstructing business. Following these events, I finally received the compensation owed to me by my husband and proceeded with the divorce. Additionally, the other woman's family sought compensation for the breach of her chastity and the costs of her psychiatric treatment. With the repercussions of his actions tarnishing his reputation at work and the financial strain of hefty compensations, my husband found himself overwhelmed with debt. Unable to afford to resign, he found himself trapped in a difficult situation. After 2 years of being away on assignment, things had finally calmed down. As I prepared to return to the main office, I reflected on my journey. Successfully completing my assignment had been a significant achievement, leading to my promotion to department manager. It dawned on me that had I not taken on this assignment, I might still be stuck in a loveless marriage. Yet deep down, I knew that a man like him would have strayed sooner or later, and conflict with his parents would have been inevitable. Through this experience, I've come to understand that I'm better suited for the demands of work rather than the complexities of family life. Now, I find myself immensely fulfilled and content. Are you done packing yet? Please make it quick. We plan to remodel your rooms once you move out, my oldest son's wife, Sarah, said impatiently. not even offering to help us pack. She seemed thrilled to claim this house as their own. Little did she know. Glancing at my husband, John silenced me with a look and turned a serene smile to Sarah. "We're sorry for keeping you waiting. We'll leave by tomorrow with the movers coming in. It'd be best if you two stayed in your rooms." We were leaving behind the furniture and appliances we shared with Sarah and David. Besides our stuff from the bedroom and wardrobe, we didn't have much left to pack. We'd probably take less than half an hour to move out. The following day, our farewell was surprisingly dry. "Well, we're off. Take care," we said. No apologies, no words of gratitude. They didn't see us off either. Sarah and David simply glanced at us from their leisure in the living room. Since they were so indifferent, we didn't need to make a fuss about leaving. But as we got into the cab silently, I couldn't help but worry about our cat. We were leaving her with them. Could Sarah properly care for her? Would she raise her with affection? I dialed a number on my phone as our house receded from view through the cab's window. In hindsight, it might have been my sixth sense that ticked off then. "I'm Patricia, 64. I've been married to John, who's a year older than me, for 35 years. We've never had a major fight, and I would say we're pretty close. John worked for a foreign company and was often busy, but he always spent his spare time with the family. With his recent retirement, I was excited to spend more time with him, but it seems like I was the only one happy about his retirement. Our eldest son's wife was upset about it, and it was apparent. David and Sarah had been living with us in our house for a year now since their marriage. Sarah, David's wife, was actually the one who suggested we live together. We have a subway station nearby, and with a well-developed public transportation system in our area, commuting to work and going for shopping is pretty easy, which is why Sarah loved our place. My husband John and I had initially been reluctant, considering they were newlyweds, but we eventually gave in, leading to our current situation. Not even in our wildest dreams did we think things would turn out this way. What on earth are you thinking? That was one day about 2 months after John retired from his company. Just as I had returned from shopping, I heard John's booming voice and froze in the living room. John was scolding our eldest son David, who was sitting on the couch. It was unusual to find John this angry, since he's usually calm and gentle. "What's going on?" With a heavy sigh, John turned to me. David was rummaging through my bag and stealing money from my wallet. "What?" Apparently, he lost big on a trifecta bet at the Kentucky Derby and a strap for cash. With that, John snatched a few dollar bills and his wallet from David's hand. It was indeed John's wallet. I was sure of it because I had given it to him as a gift on our 20th wedding anniversary. The fact that David was holding the wallet and money was undeniable proof that what John said was true. "David, didn't you quit wagering on horses? You lost big before and swore you'd never do it again. So why?" Whether he heard me or not, David just continued to watch TV without responding. Ever since he was a child, he would often ignore us when we lectured him or talked about something that didn't interest him. There were times that he didn't remember the things I've told him verbally. This time was no different, and it seemed my pleas had no effect. However, even without an answer from David, I had a hunch about why he had started betting on horse racing again. Oh, it must be Sarah. David never cared about horse racing to begin with. He would never stoop so low as to take money from someone else's wallet, and he had never committed any crime like shoplifting. If I asked what caused such a drastic change in David, who was a hard-working office worker, I would answer without a doubt. It was meeting Sarah. Sarah is a bright and active woman. When we were first introduced to her, I hoped she would help bring David, who was introverted, out of his shell. But back then, I never knew about her hobby, that she was a huge fan of horse racing, and that her sense of spending is completely off-kilter. "You heard your mother talking, so why don't you at least say something?" said my frustrated husband as he turned off the TV. At that, David finally opened his mouth. "Shut up. I've paid you back, so stop nagging me. Besides, what's got you so worked up about a couple of $100 bills?" "What?" I was actually surprised at how light your wallet was. "You've really gone downhill, haven't you, Dad?" "Well, I'm retired, so what did you expect?" How lame. With that, David left the living room. I almost tried to stop him, but my husband held me back. I'm at fault too for carelessly leaving my wallet around. Besides, repeatedly scolding him isn't going to help. But his attitude is far too unacceptable. This is too much. John has never been the kind of person to flaunt his role as the main breadwinner of the family. but it's a plain fact that it's thanks to him that we are able to maintain our lifestyle, and he provides for David and his wife as well. They're able to save on rent and living expenses as well, since they always come up with an excuse not to contribute to the household's expenses. So it's my husband who's been covering the majority of our expenses. And yet, instead of respecting John, David disparaged him. David's comments were unacceptable, but I was also enraged with his wife for introducing him to gambling. A few days later, still feeling uneasy, I decided to ask David's wife directly. It seems like David is struggling with money lately. Do you know anything about it? Oh, he apparently took a big hit at the Kentucky Derby. You knew about it? Yeah, after all, I was the one who suggested we go together, she admitted. Just as I thought, sure enough, David had been drawn back into horse racing by Sarah. Why would you do such a thing? David was trying to quit horse racing, I interjected. Is that so? I had no idea. Please, Sarah, I'm begging you not to invite David to the horse races anymore. If this keeps up, won't you be in trouble too? Well, we each have our own earnings and we're just doing what we like, so I have no problem with it, she replied nonchalantly. I was taken aback by her reply. Certainly, both David and Sarah, as a couple, were earning their own money and could spend it on whatever, as long as they had food, rent, and clothing covered. But you two are a married couple, right? You might even have kids in the future. For their sake as well, we've decided not to have children. We don't want to give up the things we love just to be tied down raising the kid, she revealed. I was shocked again by her response. There was too much information to process all at once, but in a way, it made sense. Having children would require them to have more savings by tens of thousands of dollars, which is probably why they could be so careless with money. But even without children, a married couple is still a married couple. But as a couple, you should support each other when in trouble, right? David is in trouble right now. Well, why don't you, Patricia, and the rest of the family help him out? You're his parents and well off, right? Oh, are you living off your pension now? But you had your retirement fund, didn't you? My husband worked for a foreign company, so we don't have a retirement fund. Really? That's a bummer, she remarked casually. I thought you had a nice retirement payout. We don't, so I need you and David as a couple to be more financially responsible. To be honest, the living expenses are already quite a burden, and we can't afford to cover for you guys anymore. Isn't that David's fault for losing? I can't take responsibility for that. But anyway, we can't right now. I was unable to secure a promise to support David and found myself ejected from David and Sarah's room. A week passed, and David's financial problems remained unsolved. Was he so desperate that he had to pilfer money from his parents' wallet? Shouldn't we help him before he resorts to illegal activity? I discussed it over and over with my husband John, but in the end, this was the result of us spoiling him in the past. John convinced me that we needed to be firm this time for his future's sake, and I had to agree. We were providing him breakfast and dinner, and he had a pass for commuting to work. The goal was simply to have him make it until his next paycheck, but then the situation took an unexpected turn. It happened on a weekend night as we finished our dinner and were relaxing in the living room as usual. Ding dong. Our doorbell rang, but we weren't expecting any visitors. So I approached the front door to see who was visiting us this late at night. I opened the door, wondering if I had a package scheduled for delivery, only to be taken aback. Standing there was Sarah, apparently unable to open the door as her hands were full with a cardboard box. What's going on? What's this box for? As I hurriedly took the box from her, a rustling sound echoed from within, causing me to let out a scream. In an instant, the box opened, and I found myself face to face with the animal inside. It was a cat. Isn't it cute? I found it abandoned on my way home, Sarah said with a proud grin. I was momentarily stunned, but I quickly remembered the gravity of the situation and yelled toward the living room, "John, go to her bedroom and shut the door immediately." I then closed the box and pushed it back towards Sarah. "I'm sorry, but we can't keep a cat in our house." "Ha, why is that?" Sarah looked confused. I explained to her that my husband, John, has a severe cat allergy. In addition to developing inflammation upon contact with cat saliva, he also suffers asthma-like symptoms when inhaling cat hair or dander. There was even a time in the past when he was rushed to the hospital because David had returned from a friend's house covered in fur. I thought I had already told Sarah about this when we started living together, but she seemed to have forgotten. "So, what are you saying? Do you want me to take it back where I found it?" In this cold weather, it'll die. Sarah's statement left me at a loss for words. I couldn't possibly tell her to return it to the freezing cold outside. However, I can't expose my husband to danger either. All right, you can keep it in your room for tonight, but just for tonight. Tomorrow, we'll contact an animal shelter and ask them to take it in. I thought that, at the very least, an animal shelter would provide temporary refuge for the cat. Sarah reluctantly nodded in agreement to my suggestion. I told my husband and son about it, and they agreed to let the cat stay in John and Sarah's room for the night. However, things didn't go as smoothly as expected the next morning. John and Sarah changed their minds and decided to keep the cat. Sarah, that's not what we agreed on. But I really want to keep it. It's so cute. Why can't I keep it? Because your dad is allergic to cats. He'll be fine as long as he doesn't touch it. We'll take good care of it, please. You won't be home during work, right? Who will take care of it then? I can't, which is why I'm telling you that we can't keep it. How terrible. I didn't know that even you can be so inconsiderate, unable to even save a small and cute kitten. Animal shelters, they end up euthanizing them, you know? Handing it over to such a place just because it's inconvenient for you, turning a blind eye to the sacrifice. Do you know what they call people like you? A boomer. Why? You're just a nuisance. If you can't live with this kitten, then please leave this house immediately, Sarah snapped. I was about to snap back at her, but David chimed in. It's a good opportunity. Why don't you guys move into a retirement home? It might be comfortable. You're at that age and we're not taking care of you guys. You guys aren't even bringing in any income anymore. I've had enough. Fine. Suddenly, my husband, who had been silently listening to our argument, interrupted me. Since last night's incident, he'd been wearing gloves and a mask and keeping a distance from David and his wife. I felt sorry for making him uncomfortable in his own home. The reason we can't keep the cat is my fault. I will take your advice and leave, John said. As David said, this might be a good opportunity to consider moving into a retirement home. Saying that, John looked at me. Understanding his intentions, I remained silent. David and his wife probably took this as us giving up on our house. They suddenly became more cocky. We'll take good care of this house, so don't worry. But keep the property under your name. The paperwork and payments are a pain. Moving into a retirement home can be quite expensive, you know. Please handle yourselves. Don't rely on us. We aren't helping, they said, seeming relieved, even joyful, at our compliance. This must be their true nature. Perhaps they picked up that kitten on purpose, hoping for this to happen. I realized that we had been manipulated by Sarah. For the following week, I began packing while looking out for John. David and his wife, who had lost all reserve, continued to throw veiled insults at us. But they probably realized that if John collapsed, our move out would only get delayed. So they did not let the cat out of their room. That was the only promise they kept. Are you done packing yet? Please make it quick. We plan to remodel your rooms once you move out, Sarah said impatiently, not even offering to help us pack. It seemed they couldn't wait to make this house their own. They really don't know anything, do they? I glanced at my husband. He silently calmed me down and gave a gentle smile to Sarah. We're sorry for keeping you two waiting. We'll leave by tomorrow. The mover's coming in. It'd be best if you two stay in your rooms, he said. We were leaving the furniture and appliances that we shared with Sarah and David behind. Besides our stuff from the bedroom and wardrobe, we didn't have much left to pack. I bet it won't even take 30 minutes to move everything out. And came the next day. Our farewell was surprisingly dry. Well, we're off, I said. All right, take care, Sarah replied. No apologies, no words of gratitude. And they didn't see us off either. Sarah and David simply glanced at us from their leisure in the living room. Since they were so indifferent, we didn't need to make a fuss about leaving. But as we got in a cab, silently, I couldn't help but worry about our cat. We were leaving her with them. Could Sarah properly care for her? Would she raise her with affection? As our house receded from view through the cab's window, I dialed the number on my phone. In hindsight, it might have been my sixth sense that ticked off then. I did have some concerns about our life after moving out, but things became much easier for me. After all, we had two fewer people to worry about. Everything from meals to making choices, I only had to put in half the effort I used to. No need for considerations or worries. I felt like I had regained the freedom I had before David got married. About a week into this new daily routine, I received a call from Sarah one evening. After getting my husband's approval, I answered the call. Suddenly, a frantic voice echoed from the other end of the line. Patricia, what's going on? Power and gas have been cut off. It seemed that she had just gotten home. She was so flustered that the call had accidentally switched to video, but all that could be seen on the screen was the light from a flashlight moving around in a pitch-black room. I couldn't see her face. That's because we canceled the contract for our utility bills. Of course, they'd be off, I explained. What? What do you mean? Why did you cancel them? Are you trying to get us in trouble? Are you doing this because we kicked you out? Sarah's voice rose in panic. Sarah, calm down. Is David there? My husband's calm voice seemed to pacify her somewhat. He just got home, Sarah responded. David seemed to be having a mild panic attack at the sight of their pitch-black house. We waited for them to calm down before my husband explained the truth. We've actually sold the house. The new owner has been decided, and the handover date is coming up soon. That's why we canceled our utilities contract. Sold? We weren't told about this. Were you going through the process without telling us? We live here. I couldn't help but interrupt Sarah, hearing her entitled claim. I had to tell David about the contract and the handover date, even the progress. However, judging by Sarah's reaction, it was clear that David had not passed the message on to her. Rather, he may not even remember what he was told, given his habit of not listening. Over the past few months, the house had been in chaos due to meetings with real estate agents and potential buyers. David and Sarah, who were hardly home during the day, must have been oblivious to all this. There were plenty of chances for them to notice what was going on, but they missed them all. They simply never cared about what went on in the house, and that's on them. So, I assumed you guys would move out soon after we did. Have you not moved out yet? I decided to ask, feigning ignorance. Immediately, a quarrel erupted on the other end of the line. Accusations were thrown around. It's your fault. I didn't know we'd been fooled, and the image of David and Sarah arguing in the dark was both surreal and amusing. However, once their argument ended, David and Sarah turned their frustration back on us. Even so, isn't it overbearing to proceed with this without a consensus? I don't remember agreeing to this, Sarah complained. Well, I did get a reply when I asked if it was okay to sell the house. You said, yeah, sure, I responded. Technically, all I received was an absent-minded response from David, who was watching TV at the time. Still, he agreed to it. It's his fault for not listening and giving careless responses when I told him, I added. David was momentarily speechless, but then he seemed to have a change of heart and shouted loudly, enough. I get it. So what are we supposed to do? What do you mean? Where are we supposed to live? Where do we go now? You've prepared a place for us, right? David's yelling took my husband aback. Why? My husband asked back, puzzled. Our son was taken aback by this answer. You kicked us out. Why do we have to find you a new place? I interjected. But we really didn't kick you out. You were planning to leave anyway, right? So it's not our fault at all. Besides, it was your decision to sell the house. It's your responsibility to secure housing for us since we are affected by this, I argued. Yeah, that's right. For a rental, you pay some amount for leaving, then you gotta pay us some money too. I know you made a lot from selling the house. Rental, huh? Before paying you any vacating fee, you should pay us the rent for the period you were living in that house, shouldn't you? Plus, we covered all your living expenses too. Let's have you pay all of that upfront, including rent and living expenses. It'll be about $7,000 for a year. You can pay it right now, can't you? David and his wife remained silent with a groan. Considering David's financial situation, we were well aware that they were tight on money. Realizing that we had the upper hand, David started apologizing to appease us. That's right, we should be the ones to pay first. But we don't have the money right now, so we can't. So, to make sure we can pay you back properly, why don't we live together again? He suggested. Yeah, that's right. Please tell us where you're moving to. We'll move in with you guys right away, Sarah chimed in. I sneered at them. No, we can't live with a cat. Wasn't that the reason you kicked us out? We'll get rid of the cat right away, they offered, their selfishness evident. Feeling deeply sorry for the cat at their excessively selfish words, I refused. No, we can't live with a cat. Wasn't that the reason you kicked us out? As expected for David and his wife, the cat was nothing more than a tool to kick us out of the house. As long as it benefits you, you're willing to put others' needs over your wants. Doesn't that make you a boomer? I retorted, throwing their own words back at them. Sarah started to cry, but we had no obligation to be swayed by their tears. Besides, the place we moved into is an apartment for the elderly, so young people like you can't live there. You're the ones who suggested it, remember? I reminded them. After talking over them, I hung up. All I could hear from the phone was David and Sarah crying. In the end, we never heard an apology from them. Soon after that, the young couple left the house. Apparently, they had no savings and they both declared bankruptcy. Now, they live in public housing. When we returned to the house once for cleaning before handing it over, we were able to hear about David and Sarah from our friendly neighbor's wife. According to her, they had quite a hard time packing in a house without electricity, and as expected, they left the cat behind when they moved. Fortunately, I had asked the neighbor's wife to take care of the cat in advance, and she agreed. I offered to help her find a new owner for the cat, but she grew attached and decided to keep it. What was surprising was that David and his wife didn't get divorced. Those two were probably meant for each other. They might be eyeing my husband's inheritance, but we picked a pretty nice apartment. By the time we pass away, there will be hardly anything left. Finally, we were able to start living our life together as a couple without any interruption. The senior housing where we moved in has excellent services, with a gym, karaoke, and a pool. We even get served freshly made meals 3 times a day. And above all, there are many couples our age in the building. We have made a lot of new friends here, and we plan to enjoy our retirement years together. I bought a car worth $100,000 with some old man's money just after my husband's funeral. Ashley and I were mentally and physically exhausted, yet Julia said this with glee. David was happily looking at the contract Julia had brought. Whose money are you talking about? What on earth is going on? I couldn't help but raise my voice in frustration. Despite the fact that Ashley and I were mourning the loss of my husband, our eldest son and his wife seemed not only unbothered but even pleased. The insurance money will be deposited, right? Plus, there should be an inheritance. Out of Julia's bag came, unbelievably, my husband's bank book. Seeing that, I burst into laughter. What's so funny? You're planning to use that to buy. I feel sorry for you because that bank book. My words, spoken between gasps of laughter, turned the faces of our eldest son and his wife pale. My name is Amanda Simpson. I was married to Chris and blessed with 2 children. Our eldest daughter Ashley and our eldest son David. Chris's family has been a line of doctors for generations. Both my father-in-law and mother-in-law have medical licenses. Chris had also been working hard since childhood to become a doctor. Drawn to Chris's hardworking and admirable character, which I got to know through a friend's introduction, we became a couple. Seeing Chris's dedication, our daughter Ashley also decided to pursue a career in medicine. Although Ashley wasn't necessarily academically gifted, she was diligent every day. As her mother, I was there to witness her efforts up close. I didn't force her to become a doctor. However, Chris was really pleased when she decided to become one by her own will. Mom, I got an A rating for the medical university. When she got an A rating from her dream university in high school, I couldn't help but shed tears at her success. No, it's not an acceptance yet. I still have to work hard without letting my guard down. I was genuinely happy to see her grow up to be such a kind and resilient person. But David, our eldest son, was quite the opposite. Born prematurely, David had always been frail, and I admit I might have been overprotective of him. But as David grew up, he got stronger and eventually caught up with his peers in physique. Without attending any cram school, he consistently scored perfect marks in elementary school tests. He grew up wonderfully, which was reassuring. However, in the latter half of his middle school years, David started coming home with bruises every day. David, what happened to you? Those injuries. I was concerned, but David started to ignore me. They looked like bruises from fights. Maybe he got into some scuffles. He's a boy, after all. There are times like these. It's kind of a good thing in a way that he's grown up to stand up for himself. As long as he's not causing trouble for others, let him be, Chris said with a laugh. In hindsight, I should have listened to Chris and left things to some extent. However, my overprotective nature towards David made me anxious. I constantly questioned him about the fights and who hurt him, which drove him away. You're so annoying. If you ask me one more time, I'll never speak to you again. Indeed, despite Chris's advice, I kept pushing. After David's stern warning, I reflected and stopped prying. But every time one bruise healed, another appeared. All I could do was watch over him with worry. While David was certainly academically talented, he ended up spending most of his time fighting and went to a local public high school. I hoped that after he outgrew his teenage years, David would discuss his future or college plans, but he remained unchanged. "Hey, madam, give me some money," he demanded rudely one day. "If you think acting like a delinquent makes you cool, you're gravely mistaken," Ashley retorted. "Huh? What did you say?" David snapped back, and it seemed like a fight was about to break out. The thought of Ashley possibly being harmed left me restless. "Don't fight, please. Here, is this for lunch money?" I quickly took a $50 note from my wallet and handed it to David. He clicked his tongue in annoyance and left, with Ashley glaring at him. How did it come to this? Did I spoil him too much? Every day I reflected and blamed myself. Even as his classmates began preparing for university entrance exams, David remained unchanged. Chris tried to talk to David multiple times out of concern, but David even began hurling abusive words at Chris. "Well, he hasn't done anything that would involve the police," Chris would say. "He has been picked up for being out late with friends more than once or twice." In the end, David neither found a job nor decided on further studies and just graduated high school. "David, what are you going to do? You can do well if you study. Isn't it better to go to college now? I'm not saying you should become a doctor, but you should get a job." David wouldn't even meet my eyes when I said this. However, a year later, David, who had been jobless and staying at home, approached me. "Hey," he said. I thought he might be asking for money again. But when I turned to look at him, David continued, "I'm having the kid. I'm getting married." I was left speechless from the shock. David continued, "But I'll start working. Can my wife and I live here?" "Wait, I still don't fully understand the situation. Let's discuss this with your father first." That night, Chris, David, and I had a conversation. We, as parents, came to terms with David's decision to work and his determination to welcome a child and wife. We decided to accept this new family. On the day we were to meet her, Chris, Ashley, and I waited at home. David had gone to fetch her. "He's late, isn't he?" I remarked. Even after the promised time of 1 o'clock, the two hadn't shown up. We worried that they might have had an accident. We tried reaching out but couldn't get in touch. Contrary to our anxiety, the two casually appeared just before 3. "We're back." "Wow, this place is massive. It's like a mansion." "Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Julia," she said. I was taken aback by the woman David had brought home. Despite claiming to be pregnant, she wore high heels, a short skirt that seemed chilly, and had long, shimmering, pointed nails. In her hand was a plastic bag from a baby goods store, and she greeted us with surprising words. "Nice to meet you. I'm David's mother. Really, you're prettier than what David described." "Nice to meet you, Amanda." Her behavior lacked any semblance of manners, and I was simply stunned. "Where's my room?" she asked. "Oh, we haven't decided yet," I replied. "Okay, I'll just leave the baby stuff in the living room then." With that, Julia entered the house and headed to the living room. She then greeted Chris and Ashley with the same casual tone. The checkout line was so long. "Sorry for being late. You all waited, right?" Returning to the living room, Julia addressed me, Chris, Ashley, and I could only exchange glances without saying a word. "Are you all nervous? Just relax, okay? Chill out." We were simply astounded by her words. We thought today was just a greeting, but Julia came in, placed a ton of luggage in the living room, and acted like she owned the place. Afterward, I greeted Julia again. She was 22 years old and apparently worked part-time at a bar. As a child, her parents divorced and she was raised by her father. However, he later disappeared, and she seems to have grown up in a children's home. I understood it must have been tough without any family, but there are kids who turn out well despite that. I don't think one's circumstances can be an excuse for rudeness. Then Ashley talked to Julia as she discussed her past. "How many weeks pregnant are you now? I noticed earlier that you're wearing high heels. Your belly doesn't seem to be showing yet, but it's dangerous." I felt relieved after Ashley kindly said that. Then on Julia's behalf, David spoke up. "Right, I thought the same, but Julia apparently only has heeled shoes. Buy her some, madam." Suddenly, the conversation shifted to me, and I was taken aback. "Oh, don't be so surprised. You probably don't know my taste, right? If you give me money, I'll choose for myself." I was at a loss for words at Julia's lack of hesitation. Ashley shouted at the two of them, "Why should Mom buy it? Why don't you, David?" "But the baby inside me is her grandchild, isn't it?" Julia retorted. "So what? It's your child," Ashley shot back. Scary. Is this what a sister-in-law is like? Hilarious, Julia said, mocking her. Ashley was furious at that remark, while Chris just kept silent, his mouth shut tight. What kind of attitude is this? She seems to be looking down on us even though we just met. However, we have to live together from now on. It wouldn't be wise to fight now. Over time, I believe her maternal instincts will grow and she'll change. When that time comes, she should naturally stop wearing heels and remove her nails. That's all I can hope for. Ashley, being a doctor, was particularly concerned about Julia's lack of parental awareness and said sharply, "Anyway, make sure you earn and buy your shoes before your belly gets large. Also, remove your nails. If you can't get a pulse oximeter on, they'll forcibly remove them." With that, she stormed out of the living room and locked herself in her room. Julia seemed to be mocking Ashley but then laughed when David said, "Don't worry about her. She's just jealous because I got married before her." Then our life together began. Julia went to work but didn't help around the house. She just slept all day on her days off, using her pregnancy as an excuse. David, as he declared, started working but kept quitting after arguments and then looked for other part-time jobs. The constant job changes were quite headache-inducing, but Chris said nothing about David and Julia. It seemed he had given up on them. Then something unexpected happened. With the baby items ready and the birth of our grandchild just a month away, Chris collapsed at the hospital where he worked. Despite immediate treatment, he couldn't be saved. Even with all the challenges, I had hoped for an increase in family members. I never imagined parting with Chris before that. I was so devastated that I couldn't believe it myself, and Ashley supported me. Inspired by Ashley, I tried to act strong and managed to hold the funeral. On the morning of the funeral, I told Julia, "It's fine if you stay at home, Julia. Your belly is large and it must be hard for you." "Really? Okay, I'll stay home," she replied. In our region, it's customary not to let pregnant women attend funerals. Even without that tradition, she was about to give birth, so I said that out of concern. Julia gladly accepted my offer. It was my suggestion, and I was okay with it, but I headed to the funeral feeling a bit uneasy. David, who arrived late, seemed worried about Julia and was texting her. I did warn him once, but since the baby could come at any time, I decided to let it slide, except during the funeral. After the funeral, when I got home, I was exhausted both mentally and physically. In the living room, Ashley and I were discussing dinner in a daze. Julia came down from the second floor and handed some documents to David. "Tired, huh? Did your old man make it to heaven?" she said, laughing. David laughed as well. "Might be hell," he replied. "You guys just came back from the funeral. What are you even saying?" Ashley was furious, but I didn't have the energy to get angry anymore. "Come on, Ashley, just go with it," Julia said, pointing at the documents she had given to David. Ashley and I naturally looked at those papers. "What's that? What do you mean, go with it?" The heat of the moment left us bewildered and concerned. "I used Chris's money to buy a car worth 100 grand, Julia declared, holding up some documents. Ashley and I stared in disbelief while David looked on happily. "Whose money? What on earth are you talking about?" I raised my voice out of frustration. Chris had passed away, and while Ashley and I were grieving, the couple seemed pleased instead of saddened. "We get the insurance money, right? And there should be an inheritance," Julia said, pulling out a bank book from her bag. "Dad's bank book? Julia, did you steal it when we were out?" "That's a rude thing to say. We live together, so it's not stealing. Plus, I learned where the bank book was from David, right, David?" Julia responded defiantly. It seemed David was an accomplice. What a pitiable eldest son he was. I hadn't anticipated this at all. I looked dejectedly at the bank book in Julia's hand. Chris's name was clearly written on it, but upon a closer look, I noticed something odd. When I realized the cause of the inconsistency, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Once I started laughing, I couldn't stop. It had been a long time since I laughed so hard. Julia frowned at my uncontrollable laughter. "What's so funny? Have you lost your mind, madam?" David hurled insults at me, but I wasn't even mad anymore. All this time, I thought David was smart, but I was wrong. I felt sorry for the foolish couple. "Let's see, you wanted to buy a car, right? Have you signed the contract? Are you going to use that money? I feel sorry for you. Did you see the balance in that bank book?" Upon hearing my words, David hastily took the bank book from Julia and opened it. "What the hell? There's only $3 in here. The couple looked at the bank book in shock. Yes, that bank book was set for closure, and the balance had already been withdrawn. This is a joke. There's supposed to be an inheritance. Where is it? And the insurance money should be deposited too. David was furious, and Julia echoed him. Yes, there's an inheritance and insurance money. Both of my parents-in-law passed away early, and Chris had a lot of inherited and accumulated assets. Notably, Chris wasn't just a doctor, he also owned several hospitals. His total assets amounted to $1 million. However, those were assets he had built, not things he owned. Most of his assets have been donated and are now gone. The medical fees he received from patients, he wanted to use them to help other patients. What? Didn't you know? He made a large donation, and it was in the newspapers. Hearing this, David began to tremble. He never showed interest in family matters and didn't read the newspaper, so his ignorance wasn't surprising. Moreover, the remaining money is managed in an online bank. I can't access it until we complete the inheritance procedures. Anyway, what about the insurance money? When will it be deposited? Julia rushed, grabbing the bank book and approaching me. Ashley, standing next to me, began to laugh. Don't you know, insurance money is not deposited into the account of the deceased but to the beneficiary's account. It'll be transferred to my account and my mother's, Ashley explained, chuckling. Hearing this, Julia's bank book slipped from her hands. David looked dumbfounded, and Ashley and I exchanged glances, stifling our laughter. What am I going to do now? I've already signed contracts, added so many options, and they told me I can't cancel. Mom, please, just this once, lend me some money. David knelt beside the distraught Julia. It had been so long since he called me Mom that it felt unfamiliar, as if a stranger was asking for a favor. I don't know. Figure it out yourselves. I pushed him away coldly. Today, I couldn't forgive the actions of my eldest son and his wife. I'm sure Chris felt the same. Mom, you must be tired. Let's go to bed, Ashley suggested. Yes, I'm not in the mood for dinner either, I added. Ashley and I stood up, ignoring the two who were sweating in the living room, and headed to the bedroom. It seemed that during the funeral, David had been communicating with Julia about a deal. I thought they were concerned about their health, but it seemed the car was more important than their unborn child. In his lifetime, Chris always said he didn't want to leave a single penny to David and Julia. As planned, the insurance money was transferred to Ashley and me. Chris died young, and David, even after starting a family, remained unreliable. Chris had thought about what might happen after his death and even left a will. According to the will, the real estate, most of the remaining cash, and the hospital were left to me. Ashley was nominated as the successor to this hospital and bequeathed his personal investments. David was given a large piece of land in the countryside. As we opened the will and heard its contents, Julia said, "So, can't we sell the land and buy a car?" Listen to the end. I interrupted Julia and continued reading. With that land and some of the cash, take $100,000 for building a house and leave this home. What does that mean? Julia asked in confusion. We were at the probate court. The will has been validated and carries full legal force. It means exactly what it says. You get the land and money to build a house. You should be grateful, but this house should eventually belong to David, the eldest son, right? I replied, looking at Julia as if she was pleading for help. I responded with a smirk. It's what I received. I decide who to give it to. You damn old woman, better start packing your bags when you get home, huh? Julia retorted. By the way, the land that Chris designated for David was about 30 miles away in the mountains. It was indeed vast but mostly untouched woodland. No matter how large the land is, if the construction cost is $100,000, the house built on it would probably be small. I bet David and Julia, who likely had nothing, would have made a fuss about the inheritance. Whether Chris gave them the land with that in mind, I don't know, but I believe Chris created an environment where Ashley and I can live peacefully. Besides, David and Julia shouldn't even have any right to receive anything. They should be grateful for whatever they can get. A few days later, a grandchild was born. Julia's water broke in the middle of the night, and she was immediately taken to the hospital after making a call. However, due to her dropping blood pressure and the hospital being understaffed at night, Julia had to have an emergency C-section. Ashley had repeatedly told her to remove her nail extensions, but she didn't listen. Apparently, the nurse possibly removed them. No, I just got these done 3 days ago. Don't take them off, Julia. Don't move, the amniotic fluid is gushing out. They apparently had a standoff in the middle of the night. From what I heard from Ashley, this confrontation was more challenging than the surgery. I've never had fancy nails like young people do, but it seems like it was painful. It's undoubtedly a case of getting what she deserved, I thought to myself. Julia, who had been saved along with her child, could no longer stand up to Ashley and quickly became docile. She may be upset about the inheritance, but she's no longer acting superior to us. I hope she's grateful that we let her rest for the first month after childbirth, Mom, Ashley said regretfully. Can we stay here? We don't need the land or the money. No, even if you stayed here, you both only earn as much as part-time jobs and don't contribute to household expenses, I replied firmly. David's plea was met with a firm denial from both Ashley and me. Reluctantly, David went to cancel the car purchase, but he was charged a penalty fee of $10,000, which he had to pay from the $100,000 set aside for construction. Whether they were reluctant to move to the countryside or not, they considered selling the land and renting an apartment. However, the rent was too high for David and Julia's salaries, and there were no buyers for the vast woodland. They realized they had no choice but to build a house on it, as stated in the will. Desperately, they started looking for a contractor who could build a house for $90,000, but it wasn't going well. The baby is still young, so I'm letting you all stay here for now. You can leave whenever you want, okay? I told David, who fell silent at my words. A week later, they found a construction company, but all they could afford was a small prefabricated hut. I don't expect Julia to keep it clean, so even a small house should be fine, I told the couple who were preparing to move. You'll need to decide on daycare, so until you're settled, I can take care of the baby. You both should become independent as parents first. You're taking our child, you monster, Julia exclaimed angrily, but David stopped her. With just my earnings, it's impossible to support the two of them. Let's leave our baby here until things settle. No way, I'll divorce you then, Julia threatened. Even if you do, you still won't have a home, I interjected calmly. It seemed David was finally facing reality, desperately trying to convince the furious Julia. Then don't make it come to that, I said. I didn't say I'd take her away. If you can, take her with you. When I snorted and said this, Julia bit her lip in frustration and quieted down. She must have realized that she had no choice but to temporarily part with her baby. Afterward, the couple quietly packed their things and left. I did feel sorry for the baby, however, having parents like that might not make much difference. Of course, if they changed their ways, it would be best for the baby to be raised by her own parents. But I couldn't help but think that the baby might be happier being raised by Ashley and me. David and Julia, who moved to their new land, contacted us almost every day. If it was about the granddaughter, I was happy to reply. But all they ever asked for was money. When ignored, they sent pictures of bread for dinner. Seeing this, Ashley laughed. Even if they ruin their health, they won't be able to afford medical bills. In the countryside, a car is essential, I commented. They're currently driving a used car they bought for $3,000, which frequently stalls. They might be saying this to gain our sympathy, but they don't know it's just a laughing matter for us, Ashley added. In this situation, they probably won't be able to take their daughter back, I concluded. But as long as we can live with our adorable granddaughter, I think it's okay. When she turned 3, she was very cute, kind, and nothing like David or Julia. She was a hard worker. Ashley bought her a number puzzle, and she eagerly learned numbers and could already read letters. David and Julia are still living day by day, Ashley observed. Occasionally, when they receive pictures of their daughter, they exclaim, "Super cute," as if looking at a stuffed toy. It still seems impossible for the two of them to become parents, I mused. When the granddaughter grows up, I hope she can learn from her parents' mistakes and grow up straight. That's what I think.
My mother-in-law insisted I cook even though I was completely exhausted. The aroma of the food was overwhelming for my pregnant body, and I had to rush to the bathroom. I threw up into the toilet, but since I hadn't eaten anything all day because of her relentless demands, it was mostly just liquid. From that moment, I felt like I was in serious trouble. "Lisa, how long are you planning to stay in there? We need that food ready." "I'm sorry," I managed to reply, my voice weak. Young people these days just lack patience. Pregnancy isn't something you can handle with patience alone. "How dare you speak back to me?" Just because you're pregnant doesn't give you the right to be so insolent. If you keep this up, I'll knock some sense into you. My name is Lisa, and I'm a 27-year-old office worker. My husband Ken and I have been happily married for 2 years, balancing our careers while supporting each other. Then something wonderful happened. I discovered I was pregnant. Both of us were overjoyed and eagerly anticipating the arrival of our new family member. When I found out I was pregnant, I took maternity leave, and before I knew it, I was in the final month of pregnancy, with the twins due any day. Since we were expecting twins, we had to transfer our care from a general hospital to a private one equipped for emergency surgeries. Managing daily life on my own was becoming increasingly challenging, so my husband suggested that I move in with my mother temporarily. My father passed away when I was young, and now my mother lives alone. Since my husband and my mother get along well, and I'm accustomed to living with her, it seemed like the best option for minimizing stress. So for the past few months, I've been staying with my mother. The hospital where I'll be giving birth is also closer to her house, which has made the transition very comfortable. Just when I was on the verge of giving birth, I was confronted with an unexpected and troubling situation. My mother-in-law. Initially, I had a positive impression of her. She was warm and friendly when we first met, and she was open and engaging at family gatherings. However, as time went on, I began to see a different side of her. Why was my mother-in-law involved now? I had no choice but to ask for her help. My husband, a special design engineer, was dealing with an urgent issue with a local client that only he could resolve, so he needed to visit the client personally. Meanwhile, my mother was hospitalized with appendicitis and would be out of commission for a few days. Concerned about me being alone, my husband suggested that my mother-in-law stay with me to provide support. At the time, I still had a positive view of my mother-in-law, so I was relieved when she agreed to come and help. I thought her presence would bring some much-needed peace of mind. However, the moment she arrived at my house, her demeanor took a turn for the worse. "Oh my God, your house is such a mess. Do you and your mother even clean?" Her comments were harsh and unprovoked, and she even went as far as to insult my mother. I was taken aback, as I had always thought of my mother-in-law as a kind person. "Mother, thank you for coming to take care of me for the next few days." "Oh, you must have misunderstood something," she replied dismissively. "What?" "I'm only here to call an ambulance if you need it," she said bluntly. "You'll need to handle the housework yourself." "Oh, don't think you can take advantage of me just because you're pregnant. I'll show you how to clean your house. Now get ready." Reluctantly, I had to comply with my mother-in-law's demands. She had me walking around the house, tidying up every nook and cranny. Then, despite my exhaustion, she insisted I cook. The smell of the food became overwhelming, and I had to rush to the bathroom. I threw up in the toilet, but since I hadn't eaten anything because of the constant demands from my mother-in-law, it was mostly just liquid. From the very first day, I felt like I was in danger. "Hey, Lisa, how long are you going to stay in the bathroom? Come out and cook." "I'm sorry. Young people these days just don't have any patience. Pregnancy isn't something you handle with patience alone. How dare you talk back to me? Just because you're pregnant doesn't give you the right to be so insolent. If you keep this up, I'll knock some sense into you. Tomorrow, we'll do a more thorough cleaning. We'll tackle the yard and get rid of the weeds." "But I don't think I can manage pulling weeds. It's my last month of pregnancy." "Don't be so lazy. You need to strengthen your legs. You've been pampered and living a lazy life. You won't be able to raise a child like that." But the doctor advised me to rest as much as possible. What I'm talking about. I've already given birth to my son and daughter. Listen to me, not that nonsense from the doctor. You can rest today, but starting tomorrow, I'll be much stricter, so be ready. My mother-in-law grinned as she spoke. It was clear she wasn't interested in teaching me. She was simply enjoying the power of giving orders and mistreating me. Fearing that continuing to follow her demands might put my pregnancy at risk, I tried to resist as much as I could. That's enough. It's obvious you should follow the doctor's advice. What you're doing is just bullying your daughter-in-law. How dare you speak to me like that? I should have known I couldn't trust you. Trust me? What are you talking about? I'm saying I never trusted someone raised by a single mother. They don't get proper guidance. That's why I didn't want my son to marry you. I see, so that's what you really thought. Yes, that's exactly it. But you can at least give me grandchildren. Once you've given me what I want, I'm done with you. What do you mean, done? Well, ideally, there would be a separation and divorce. My son and the grandchildren can return to our home. I understand your point. I'll support you through the birth, at the very least. No, I've had enough. What are you talking about? Without my help, the babies could be at risk. Don't be selfish, just do as I say. Just then, my husband walked in. Hey, Mom, what's going on here? What? Why are you home? Didn't you go on a business trip? Fortunately, everything went smoothly, and I was able to return today. I got a message from Lisa asking for help, so I called her and stayed on the line. So, you heard everything we discussed? Yes, I heard everything. Mom, what kind of danger are you putting my pregnant wife in? Well, when I was pregnant, though medicine is much more advanced now, the doctor's advice is still crucial. Lisa is carrying twins, so she needs even more care than with a single pregnancy. If anything happens to those babies, it's on you. Oh no. Also, you mocked Lisa's mother for being a single parent. I didn't realize you were like this. You only see things on the surface. The truth is, single parent. Single parent. I'm sure those children didn't receive a proper upbringing. So does that mean I and everyone who works for her mother are bad people too? What? When we first met each other's families, I mentioned that my mother is a business owner. I thought that was just a small bar or something. I figured she was just trying to impress. Oh, I see. I didn't realize you had such a narrow view. I thought you were more open-minded. Lisa's mom is actually the president of the company I used to work for. She was recently featured in a business magazine. It was originally her husband's company, but after he passed away, she took over. She's been successfully running it for over 20 years. Well, I didn't know that. If I had, I might have acted differently. I dislike people who change their behavior based on someone's status. You've been belittling Lisa and my mother-in-law all along, haven't you? I don't want anything to do with you anymore. On top of that, you've endangered my babies. I'm cutting ties with you, Mom. You can't do that. Don't ever come around us again. I'm sorry, please. Sorry? No, I can't forgive you. What you said to Lisa was unacceptable. I'll never be able to forgive you. I'm going to tell Dad and my sister about this. Music. Now, if you cause any more trouble, get out of here. My mother-in-law's face turned pale as my husband insisted she leave. I'm so relieved he came back when he did. If he had left me alone with her, I can't imagine what might have happened. Afterward, my mother-in-law returned to my in-law's house, but my husband had informed my father-in-law about the situation, so my mother-in-law was not allowed inside. She then turned to my sister-in-law for help, but my husband had also filled her in, so she refused to assist her mother as well. Although my sister-in-law has her own issues with her mother-in-law, she couldn't tolerate seeing her mother bully me. With no support from the family, my mother-in-law was left feeling abandoned. Desperate, she went to my father-in-law, begging and pleading. He agreed to let her return home on the condition that she promise never to bully me again. My husband reinforced this by insisting she stay out of our lives completely and warned her that breaking even the smallest promise would result in immediate divorce. Additionally, as a consequence for her actions, he required her to help with his brother's farm for 3 months. My mother-in-law had to work under the sweltering summer heat, pushing her physical limits. It was well-deserved. Meanwhile, I gave birth to healthy twins and my mother was discharged from the hospital, overjoyed to hold her grandchildren. My husband suggested that I stay with my parents for a while to adjust to my new role as a mother. Both my husband and my mother are supportive, helping me with the babies and household chores. With such strong family unity and mutual care, we've been able to live together in peace and harmony. Either way, everyone in my husband's family has visited us except for my mother-in-law. They're all thrilled to meet our children. I'm looking forward to continuing our happy life together with the family. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.
Meet Jody, a 29-year-old who's been working from home for 3 years. Before this setup, she held a consulting position at a major corporation, overseeing online operations. The decision to transition to remote work came unexpectedly when she found out she was pregnant. Opting for freelancing, she bid farewell to her corporate role, embracing the flexibility it offered. With her knack for marketing, she's been successfully managing various projects and directing online operations, bringing in a decent income. However, her husband, Huey, remains somewhat oblivious to the nature and value of her work, seeing it merely as a pastime. The shift to working remotely granted Jody the luxury of time, allowing her to experience a serene pregnancy and safely deliver their daughter, Caddy. Initially, Jody stayed with her parents for support during the first month after Caddy's birth. However, Huey's insistence on her return prompted her to shorten her stay to just a month. Since then, she's been navigating the delicate balance between work and childcare, managing adequately but not without its challenges. Unexpectedly, Olivia, her mother-in-law, proposed the idea of living together. Despite initial reservations about the potential complexities, Jody agreed on the condition of building a duplex to maintain some level of autonomy. The construction proceeded smoothly, and soon they moved into the new home, sharing common spaces. While initially pleased with the arrangement, Jody's contentment soon turned to frustration as Olivia began to impose various household tasks on her, often disrupting her work. Olivia's demands grew incessant, leaving Jody little room to focus on her professional responsibilities. Even when Jody voiced her concerns to Q, she found little support, with him dismissing her grievances and insisting she comply with his mother's requests. This lack of understanding and support from her husband only added to Jody's stress, pushing her mental and physical well-being to its limits. "I'm working hard and you're just playing. That's pathetic." With every complaint I voiced, Huey's attacks escalated, dismissing my efforts as nothing more than play. Even when I insisted that I was seriously working, he refused to believe me. Cody, my father-in-law, seemed to echo Huey and Olivia's sentiments, viewing working from home as little more than a hobby. Their lack of trust in my work left me questioning my own worth, fearing abandonment due to my perceived inadequacy. Then one day, when Hugh was off work and everyone was home, I had Caddy lying next to me as I worked. Huey barged into the room with a loud noise, demanding I come to my parents-in-law's room immediately. Ignoring Caddy's cries and leaving her behind, he must have known she was there. Was the loud noise really necessary? Doubting the sensibility of Hugh and my parents-in-law, who interrupted my work, I picked up the crying Caddy and went downstairs. Entering the living room, I found the parents-in-law and Huey chatting happily. Perhaps I had reached my limit of irritation. Anger started to bubble up inside me. "What is it?" I asked quietly, sitting down with Caddy in my arms. The parents-in-law and Huey continued whispering to each other, their secretive behavior unsettling. Patiently, I waited for them to start the conversation. Then Olivia coughed exaggeratedly and glared at me with surprising words. "You leave this house," she said abruptly. I was confused by Olivia's statement. Did she mean for me to temporarily return to my parents' house? "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to remain calm. Olivia snorted and crossed her arms arrogantly. Even as I looked to Hugh for an explanation, he only smiled continuously. Was he mad, or was it me who was losing it? Why, I wondered. I needed to understand the reason calmly, so I first turned to Olivia and asked her why she said that. Olivia's eyes lit up as if she was glad I asked, and with a smile similar to Huey's, she began to rant about how inadequate I was. Every day you neglect housework, let Caddy cry incessantly, and just play with your computer and mobile phone. I don't know if you're relying on Huey's salary, but you never listen to advice. Just like a parasite, Olivia continued, laughing heartily as if she found it amusing. I apologize for the housework, but I'm doing the basics. I also take good care of Caddy. She's quite a quiet child. I countered Olivia's accusations as much as possible. I can't just let go of my computer and mobile phone. I'm working. Isn't that understandable? Then Huey glared at me. Are you cheating or what? He accused, and I stared back at him, bewildered by his baseless accusation. Yes, Jody is cheating. Olivia joined Huey, pointing at me with a look of disgust. I was appalled at their audacity. I'm not cheating. I can show you my mobile phone right now, I said, taking out my phone to prove my innocence. But Huey just scoffed at it. Anyone can deceive with that. Can't trust you, he said dismissively. Realizing arguing was pointless, I put away my phone for now. We don't need someone like you. Parasites should move out immediately. Olivia continued to berate me. Move out quickly, she continued. I started to feel like maybe leaving with my daughter was the only option. However, there was one reason I couldn't decide to leave just yet: the duplex house. I was the one who paid for it, went to the construction company repeatedly, and was particular about the interior and exterior. Therefore, I couldn't just easily say, yes, sure, and leave this place. Moreover, the mortgage is still in my name, and I doubt Huey's salary alone could cover our living expenses. If I leave, my income goes too. Are you sure he can manage? I gave them one last chance to reconsider, but Huey scoffed. What income of yours? Don't make me laugh. We've been living off my salary alone until now. His ignorance made me feel almost sorry for him. I sighed deeply and turned to Olivia. Hugh is quite a handful, even more than a 6-month-old daughter. Will you be taking care of him? Huey is high maintenance. He needs his towel, underwear, and pajamas ready after his bath, his shoes polished daily, his shirts ironed, suits deodorized, and wrinkle-free. If his morning coffee strength is slightly off, he loses his temper like a madman. I doubted Olivia could handle such a needy Huey. I asked, offering Olivia a chance. I can do a better job than you. Who's just been playing around, she scoffed. Besides, if you leave, Huey already has someone else in mind. Olivia, looking pleased, said something that she shouldn't have to hear. What do you mean? I didn't miss a beat and turned my gaze to Hugh and Olivia. Olivia showed a look of regret and hastily averted her eyes. Hugh glared at Olivia. Why did you say that? He whispered in a low voice. Explain what's going on. From their reactions, I gathered that Huey might have another woman. I glared intensely at Huey, prompting him to speak uncomfortably. Apparently, according to Huey, for several months, he's been seeing a woman named Carol, a young lady in her early 20s who fell for Huey at first sight during a business encounter. After her advances, they started dating. Carol is beautiful, graceful, and has a wonderful personality, Hugh says with a laugh. I couldn't believe it considering Huey's looks. I couldn't fathom why such a young woman would be interested in him. Half believing, I asked Hugh for proof, thinking if it's true, I'd secure compensation. Hugh showed me his WhatsApp history with Carol, and as expected, the messages were mostly from Huey, suggesting dates and compliments. However, Carol seemed disinterested in anything beyond work, politely declining personal interactions. Moreover, she typically responded formally, with no stamps or anything, just simple replies. Stunned by Huey's smug face, I was at a loss for words. I took screenshots of the conversation, transferred them to my phone without permission, and saved them. You never know when they might serve as evidence. Then I'll leave. With all that had transpired, my affection for Huey had cooled off entirely, and I didn't care what happened to them anymore. I'll take Caddy with me, I declared as Huey and the parents-in-law seemed pleased with my decision to leave. Huey's face turned serious, and his raised hands fell. What are you talking about? You can't raise Caddy without any income. That's right, leave Caddy here. Don't be silly, Hugh. and the parents-in-law didn't understand why I needed to take her with me. As far as I'm concerned, I don't understand why I should leave my daughter in such a place. I've told you I have an income, and why would I leave her with people who can't even take proper care of her? When Caddy grows up, she'll work hard, and I'll relax. Hugh interrupted with his nonsensical talk as I was explaining why I wouldn't leave Caddy. My anger was building. He kept spouting selfish things, not realizing he's digging his own grave. He even plans to use our daughter as a tool. Very well then, let's decide the custody through court. Please prepare a lawyer. Until then, I'll take care of her. But I knew that arguing here would only complicate things further with Huey and the parents-in-law, with unwavering confidence that I wouldn't lose. Once they agreed to legal proceedings, I wasted no time in preparing to leave immediately. Over the next few days, I never left my daughter's side, making all the necessary arrangements. I visited the construction company that had helped build the house and explained everything. I asked if they knew any good real estate agents to sell the house. Nick, the president of the construction company, became my ally, assuring me they'd handle everything. They quickly arranged for the sale, and to my surprise, due to the house's recent construction, pristine condition, and excellent location, it sold for far more than I expected. Simultaneously, they found an apartment for my daughter and me, a great place at the lowest price due to my budget considerations. I expressed my gratitude and began preparing to move immediately. "Oh, have you already found a place?" While packing my dishes in the living room, Olivia asked with a laugh. "Yes." I responded briefly, feeling no need to elaborate. "It'll be lonely without you," she said with a big laugh as she walked away. As unpleasant as she was, I looked around. The sofa and dining table I had bought were too large for the apartment, so I decided to sell them. Next was the refrigerator, which I also bought. It was slightly large, but I decided to take it with me and marked it with a sticker. I put stickers on all the furniture and appliances I had bought and wanted to take, and took photos of the items I didn't need with my mobile phone. On moving day, I purposely chose a day when the parents-in-law and Huey were away. Huey was at work, and the parents-in-law were called away to a community gathering. With the divorce papers Huey had given me in hand, I worked with the movers to transport my belongings. I had the construction company arrange for a waste removal service to pick up the unwanted furniture and other items. I steadily progressed with the move, and everything was finished within 2 hours. A few hours later, I left the house with Caddy. As I arranged things in the apartment, the phone rang. It was Olivia. It was already 5 in the evening. I had left before noon, so she must have just realized. I answered the call. "Jody, what's this about the house being empty?" Over the phone, Olivia seemed quite flustered, yelling loudly, "Ah, those things were mine. I disposed of the ones I didn't need. What are you talking about?" I replied calmly, "Well, I bought them. I have receipts and other proofs of purchase, so there's no point in complaining," I said with a laugh, leaving Olivia seemingly at a loss for words, raised in nonsensical uproar. "Oh, and I sold the house, so please vacate within a month," I added cheerfully. Olivia sounded even more astonished. "Why would you do that? Since I built the house, it's in my name and I've been paying the mortgage, so I decided to do as I pleased. So that's that," I stated firmly, and Olivia was still trying to say something, but I hung up the phone. After that, I received numerous calls from the parents-in-law and Huey, but I ignored them all. I needed to arrange the apartment quickly for Caddy's sake and had no time for distractions. I also consulted with a lawyer, and we agreed all future communications would go through them. Months later, after repeated negotiations, I easily won custody of Caddy. The reasons were simple. I had ample financial resources. I had been the one caring for Caddy all along, and working from home allowed me to spend more time with her. Huey, who had assumed he would naturally win custody, was shocked and bitterly spat, "I don't need such a girl anyway," before storming off. Relieved that I could finally live peacefully with my daughter, I felt a sense of calm settle over me. After I left, the parents-in-law and Huey hadn't left yet. What should I do? I received a call from the president of the construction company. I simply replied, "Please evict them," and the president, knowing the situation and seemingly amused, laughed heartily and said, "Leave it to me," before hanging up. I don't know exactly how the formidable-looking president persuaded Hugh and the parents-in-law to leave, but I can't imagine. A few days later, I received a report that they've moved out, and I was impressed by the efficiency. Even that brought relief to my heart. But several months after the divorce, Hugh contacted me. By then, the divorce was final, and the parents-in-law had somewhat given up, so I hadn't blocked his number. But I immediately regretted not changing my mobile phone number or maintaining the block. Long time. I was just thinking maybe you were starting to miss me by now, he said. What is he talking about? I felt more liberated than ever after the divorce, not having to care for him. I listened as Huey continued speaking. He was apparently dumped by Carol and had thought I was his only option. The way he was dumped was laughable. He went to Carol right after our divorce, saying, "We can be together right away." When he told her, "You don't flatter yourself," she responded very coldly, misinterpreting her professional demeanor at the workplace. Hugh visited her at home, resulting in a restraining order from the police. Hugh claimed, "Carol betrayed me. I dumped that woman." But frankly, I had no interest in his story. I hung up the phone while he was still talking and immediately blocked him. I blocked all messages and later changed my phone number, starting anew. I heard from mutual friends that after the incident with Carol, Huey had disputes with clients and was negatively affected at work. Perhaps feeling too uncomfortable, he resigned. Unable to secure another job, he seemed to be struggling financially, constantly asking various people for loans. The parents-in-law are probably taking care of him, but I imagine his modest income is hardly sufficient for a stable life. As for me, I'm living a fulfilling life with Caddy, dedicating my presence solely to her, which brings me the utmost happiness.
Have you ever heard of divorce papers being filed without your consent? I had, but I never thought it would happen to me. I was relieved I divorced someone with no money and sick, until I received such an email while hospitalized from the stress of my husband's infidelity. That email shattered my hopes. As soon as I was discharged, I took what I had in hand and went straight to the bank, determined to make my former husband, an elite bank employee, pay for his betrayal. My name is Courtney, a handmade artist. I was married to Tom for 6 years. We met as colleagues at the bank and were happy together, but things changed in the last 6 months. Tom started coming home late and became glued to his phone. He used to talk inside the house, but then he began going out to his car for calls. Suspecting an affair, I hired a detective agency after much deliberation. It cost some money, but I thought it was worth it for peace of mind. A month after hiring the agency, I found out about Tom's affair. His lover was Michelle, a teller at the same bank. The report included photos of them entering a hotel, kissing on the street, and enjoying meals together. Despite the evidence, I couldn't give up on Tom. I believed his affair was a moment of folly and that he would return to me. I changed my hairstyle, put on makeup, cooked with more effort, and always smiled, but all my efforts went unnoticed. Tom stopped touching his food, which increased my stress. I had resolved not to confront him, but seeing him happily leave the house on the phone every day made it impossible to hold back. "You seem busy lately, getting a lot of calls. Is work so demanding that you need to handle it even after you come home?" "Yeah," he replied. "You quit the bank to marry me after working there for about 2 years, right? You might not understand, but it's a busy season now. It's easy for you, isn't it? No busy season, no earnings, just a leisurely life as a handmade artist." Tom laughed in a way that mocked me. The Tom I knew would never have said such things about my work or laughed at me like that. He used to praise my pieces and support me through late-night work sessions. "You don't have to say it like that. I might not be as busy as you, but I take my work seriously. I'm not living leisurely at all. I don't know how much you're earning, but it's definitely less than me, right? I'm paying half of everything, rent, utilities, living expenses, so that you can live. It's tough being a woman with no earning power. You wouldn't survive if I divorced you." What kind of thing is that to say? I make enough to cover my share, but that's not the point right now. Do you want to divorce me? Unable to control myself after hearing the word divorce from Tom, I started crying uncontrollably. Tom sighed, annoyed, and left the living room, telling me not to cry over every little thing. Tom's attitude towards me grew colder. The next day, he completely ignored me, not even meeting my gaze. Despite the situation, I kept wondering how we could return to being the happy couple we once were. The immense stress led to sleepless nights and spontaneous tears. Unable to bear it alone, I met with my high school friend Sophia for advice. Sophia, still single, was a successful career woman. Tearfully, I shared my feelings with her, feelings I couldn't share with anyone else. Tom is completely infatuated with Michelle. He comes home later and later. I don't know what to do anymore. Do you still love your husband, Courtney? Do you want to get back to how things were before? Sophia asked. I honestly expressed my feelings. It's stupid, but I still love him. I don't want to give up, but everything is so hard. Just then, I started coughing violently and bent over. I've had asthma since before, and it had worsened due to the stress from my relationship with Tom. I took out my inhaler, but I was coughing so much that I couldn't inhale at all. The relentless coughing made me suffer unbearably. Unable to remain seated, I collapsed onto the floor. Courtney, are you okay? Please, someone call an ambulance. Sophia called out desperately, but I couldn't respond and lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. Courtney, thank goodness you're awake. Are you okay? Can you understand me? When I looked toward the voice, I saw Sophia with tears in her eyes. Attempting to speak cautiously, I managed to utter, thanks, despite coughing. Sophia nodded while crying and immediately pressed the nurse call button. The attending doctor arrived and explained that due to the severity of my asthma symptoms, I would need to be hospitalized for about a week. With nothing prepared for a sudden hospitalization, Sophia bought me a hospital admission set from the shop and filled out the necessary paperwork. I tried to inform my husband about my hospitalization, but couldn't reach him. Sophia tried calling Tom's cell phone, but he didn't answer. Considering contacting my workplace, I hesitated, fearing their reaction. Eventually, Sophia helped me draft an email, which she sent on my behalf. Sophia stayed until the end of visiting hours and then left. I drifted in and out of sleep due to the medication, constantly checking for any messages from Tom. The first message from him came at 1:00 a.m. If you're hospitalized, there's nothing I can do. I'm busy with work, so I won't visit you. Upon reading that email, I felt truly sad, hurt, and miserable. It wasn't just that Tom said he couldn't come because he was busy, but that he wouldn't come at all. This made it clear to me that he no longer had any love for me. I thought I shouldn't cry, but tears came uncontrollably. I didn't reply to the email and just cried until morning. 2 days passed. Tom didn't visit, but Sophia diligently showed up after work. That's great, you look a bit better. Are you able to eat? I brought your favorite novel. Sophia's lively visits and smiles saved me. I can't thank her enough. Thank you, Sophia. I'm feeling quite good today. My cough has settled down a lot. The doctor said he might discharge me in about 2 more days. Sophia was really happy and started planning for us to go out and eat something healthy after my discharge. As Sophia and I were discussing where to go, I received an email notification. The subject line read, "Glad I divorced a broke, sick person." Reading the email from Tom over and over, I couldn't understand its meaning and just froze with my phone in hand, my heart racing and my mind in turmoil. You don't earn much, do you? Falling sick without doing any serious work. Don't make me laugh. Wife lottery, a big failure. So I filed for divorce. Take care. Seeing the follow-up email, I laughed unconsciously. It felt like a farce, getting divorced by Tom while hospitalized for asthma. Tears came along with the laughter, and I found myself crying and laughing at the same time. Seeing me like that, Sophia shook my shoulders in a panic. Courtney, what happened? Are you okay? I handed my phone to Sophia, showing her the emails from Tom. As she read the messages, Sophia's face turned red with anger. Look, Courtney, I know you love your husband, and I didn't want to say anything, but maybe it's time to let go. I understood what Sophia meant. Even though she started crying from the emotion, she managed to put her words together. Just divorce him, Courtney. You need to take care of yourself, no matter how much you love him. Sorry to be blunt, but you can't be happy with such a shitty man. Sophia looked sorry, knowing it was not her place to meddle in marital affairs, but I smiled back at her. It's okay, really. I knew deep down that it was impossible to continue, but I lacked the courage to divorce. I always looked away, but it's over now. I'll divorce Tom. When Tom brought up divorce, I was afraid of the separation. I still loved Tom and was scared of how others would react to our divorce. But once I made the decision myself, the fear of divorcing somehow disappeared. I think it's because I could finally think clearly enough to say, let's give up. That's the way to go. Let's enjoy being single again together. Yeah, I feel so much better. Thank you, Sophia. Having you here, I'm really grateful. Courtney, you're my precious friend, of course. But wait, how did he manage to file for divorce without your signature? Sophia's anger flared up again. I explained, when we got married, we prepared divorce papers just in case. It was silly, but we agreed to try to talk through anything and overcome any crisis as a couple. Well, that didn't work out, did it? I could laugh about it, but Sophia didn't seem amused. In disbelief, she said, "I see, so he just pulled those out, filled in his part, and submitted them. It might not be a forgery, but it's still appalling." I was afraid of being divorced by Tom in such a state, so I had hidden them in the room. He probably found them and submitted them. Now I'm actually glad he did it. I couldn't decide to divorce Tom because I still loved him, but now it's different. As Tom's feelings for me have vanished, so have mine for him. I'm not foolish enough to keep loving someone who does this to me. Tom still sent one-sided messages. "You probably don't have any property, and I don't want to give you any of my money, so we're not dividing any assets. The house is in my name, so get out. I'm being kind by giving you until the end of the month. I don't want to bump into you, so I won't return until after the month is over. Make sure you clean the room before you leave." Honestly, at this point, I was in a "what is this guy even thinking" state, and the sheer selfishness made me laugh again. I showed the email to Sophia, laughing. "Look, Sophia, now I've lost the house too. What should I do? Going back to my parents is too far. I had no intention of staying in that house, and there were my valuable handmade parts to consider. Transporting them would probably fill an entire room. The right size, security, rent. Could I find a perfect place that quickly?" While I was pondering, Sophia smiled. "Have you forgotten where your best friend works? Don't worry, dear customer, I'll find the perfect room for you." "Sorry, I really forgot." "That's right, Sophia, please help me." I thanked Sophia. Sophia worked in real estate and was a pro at finding places. I decided to leave everything to Sophia, a capable woman. She brought various property listings to my hospital bed, spreading them out and explaining each one to me. By the time I was discharged, we had managed to find a place close to my preferences, which was a relief. However, I needed certain documents that I couldn't get until after my discharge, so I decided to stay at Sophia's place in the meantime. "I'm really sorry I keep causing you trouble," I said. "It's okay," Sophia reassured me. "I've got good sales, right? I've been here second longest after the manager. Sorry, rental agreements take time because there's a lot of paperwork and an inspection process. You can stay at my place as long as you need until everything is settled." "Thank you so much. If there's anything I can do, just let me know. Just take care of yourself for now. Let's take it easy. So, how have things been? Any more contact from your ex-husband?" "No, not a single word from him. After all, we're strangers now. I do get messages from people from our bank days, though. Apparently, I was branded as a terrible wife. It seems that my ex-husband Tom reported our divorce at his workplace and blamed me for it. He told people I didn't do housework, didn't contribute financially to the household, and yet splurged on my hobbies. He said that any attempt at discussion would end with me getting hysterical and uncontrollable. It's laughable at this point. Who does he think he is to say that? I'd love to remind him who was the one cheating." Sophia seemed to have reached a point where all she could do was laugh. "So, what's your plan? You're not going to let this end here, are you? Courtney, what are you going to do?" Grinning mischievously, Sophia looked at me, and I couldn't help but smile back. There was no way I was going to let this end here. Tom had his turn doing whatever he pleased, but now it was my turn. Of course I have no intention of holding back against a man without sincerity and a woman who meddles with a married man. I have quite a few things in mind, so look forward to it. Just you wait, both of you. Enjoy your peaceful newlywed life while you can. 2 days after my successful discharge, Sophia drove me straight to the bank where my ex-husband Tom and his new wife Michelle worked. Upon entering the bank, I saw Tom in the back. It had been a while since I last saw him, about a month and a half. I was hospitalized when he filed for divorce. I thought I would be furious seeing him, but I wasn't. I looked for Michelle at the counter, and there she was, sitting with a composed face, the woman who had taken my husband away. I took a number and waited for my turn. Fortunately, I was called to Michelle's counter. She greeted me with a welcome, and I responded with a smile. "Hello, I'm sorry to bother you, but I'd like to cancel a bank account." "Certainly, is it just one account you wish to cancel?" "Here we go." I took a deep breath and projected my voice. "No, not just one. I'm here to cancel accounts for all 800 employees of my company." The counter buzzed with whispers at my declaration. Tom looked over, shocked at what he saw. He seemed to want to say something, his mouth opening and closing. All 800 accounts. Michelle was flustered at the counter, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of laughter. Canceling 800 salary accounts would be a significant loss for the bank. It's not just about losing deposits. With interest rates being low, banks count on transaction fees and salary transfer fees for their profits. Losing that is a big deal. "Yes, all of them. Please proceed." As I handed over the corporate account documents, I made my request. "What the hell are you doing, Courtney? Did you just say something about a company? 800 employees? What's that about? Tom approached the counter, causing a stir among the other customers in the bank. Oh, long time no see. How have you been? I said calmly. What do you mean? It's exactly as I said. I have been a company president even when I was married to you. It's a handmade business, so I'm both an artist and a president. I spoke the truth at the counter. You were a president. I didn't know that. You never said anything about that when we were married, did you? No, I didn't. You used to mock me for being a failing handmade artist, right? I earn more than you do. I didn't want to hurt your pride, so I kept it to myself. Michelle, who had no idea who I was, looked at me in shock. She whispered softly, wondering if I was really the person she thought I was. Hello, I'm his ex-wife. Please proceed with the cancellation quickly. Tom and Michelle were frozen, not knowing how to react to the unexpected situation. Then I heard a familiar voice. Miss Courtney, it's been a while. You seem well. There stood Mr. Johnson, my boss before. When I married Tom, he was a strict person, and many of my peers found him difficult. But I liked him. He was as strict with himself as he was with others. When I got married to Tom, Mr. Johnson tearfully wished me happiness. Mr. Johnson, it's been too long. You look well, I said, momentarily forgetting why I was there, happy to see Mr. Johnson. Yes, I'm doing well. Tom told me about the divorce and I've been worried about you. It seems you've been through a lot. How about we talk in the back room while we wait? Of course, these two and I will be there, I said, glancing at Tom and Michelle. Mr. Johnson's gaze was sharp, likely because of my divorce and Tom's remarriage to Michelle. Their faces, which were red a moment ago, turned pale. They seemed to be having a busy day, changing colors like that. I don't mind at all. I'd love to catch up with you, Mr. Johnson. Great, let's go to the reception room on the 3rd floor. You two, come along, he said. We headed to the 3rd floor where the customer reception room was located. Mr. Johnson opened the door for us and we entered and took our seats. It's really been a long time, Mr. Johnson. I feel regret for meeting under these circumstances, I spoke honestly, and Mr. Johnson smiled back. No worries, I was surprised by the situation, but I'm glad to see you're doing well. I was shocked to hear about the divorce from him and even more so about his quick remarriage. Mr. Johnson glanced at Michelle and continued, and I don't believe the divorce was your fault, as he claimed. Wait a minute, Mr. Johnson. Are you implying that we're to blame? Tom interjected. Is that not the case? If I'm wrong, I apologize. But you see, I've known Courtney for several years. She was always organized, the most meticulous when it came to cleaning. And if I recall correctly, she used to bring homemade lunches every day, right? Mr. Johnson's precise recollection of these details made me feel appreciated for my efforts. Not doing housework, not contributing financially to the household, but spending on hobbies and becoming hysterical during discussions. That's what you've been spreading around as the reason for divorce. But Courtney is not like that. Hearing Mr. Johnson defend me so firmly brought tears to my eyes. It felt overwhelming to have someone who understood, but that's the truth. Tom insisted, you only know her from a work perspective, and you might suspect we had an inappropriate relationship, but that's not true. Yes, that's right. I never cheated, Michelle added. I just couldn't stand seeing Tom so down after his divorce, and while I was cheering him up, he proposed, Michelle said, tears streaming down her face like a tragic heroine. Their blatant lies in front of Mr. Johnson were infuriating. Ridiculous. I was the one who was hurt. I took a document about the thickness of a notebook from my bag. Would you like to see this, Mr. Johnson? You two can look as well. Oh, but perhaps there's no need. You're probably well aware of what's in it. I handed over the investigation report from the detective agency to Mr. Johnson. He took it, smoothly dodging Michelle's attempt to grab it with a scream. Sit down and be quiet, Mr. Johnson commanded sternly. Michelle shrieked and clung to Tom. What is this? You said your wife was too stupid to notice anything. This is not what you told me, Michelle exclaimed. It's not like that. She really is stupid. I never thought she would do something like this, Tom stammered. Calling people stupid too much, aren't you? I was about to retort when Mr. Johnson's furious shout exploded. The idiots here are you two. Cheating on your wife, Tom, and you, Michelle, getting involved with a married man and playing the victim. You two are the offenders and Courtney is the victim. Thank you for saying everything I wanted to say. It feels refreshing. But may I add something? Of course, say it. I won't stop you, Mr. Johnson replied, his strong support empowering me. He nodded at me vigorously and began reading the report with intense focus, his frown deepening. You called me stupid, but do you think a stupid person can run a company? It turns out you were the one with the lesser income. How much was your salary again? $100,000? That's plenty. Tom was so proud of his $100,000 salary, which seemed hilarious to me. Michelle nodded along, seemingly proud as well. Is that so? Well, it's not bad, but mine is $400,000. I have 800 employees and it's only our 4th year in business. The handmade business you look down on. I started a company with my friends. $400,000. $400,000? Tom and Michelle's faces were priceless. The information that the person they underestimated was actually a company president earning $400,000 was too much for them. Yes, business is booming, so we're planning to hire more staff. I thought it would be beneficial to have our employee accounts with your bank, but there's no need to be considerate anymore. So I'm canceling them all. Wait, just wait a minute. If you cancel, the bank's deposits will decrease. Having salary accounts means potential for housing mortgages and such. It's a big loss for the bank if you cancel, Tom stammered, seemingly forgetting that I used to be a bank employee and that this was basic knowledge for anyone in the field. Yes, I'm aware. It's basic knowledge for a bank employee, isn't it? Are you underestimating me? Why should I be considerate of an ex-husband who cheated and filed for divorce while his wife was hospitalized with asthma? And these two seem to forget something crucial. I made sure to remind them, and you had an affair within the bank. Do you really think you can continue on the elite path as if nothing happened? You too, Michelle? By the time I looked at Michelle, she had already started crying. Tom, looking down in frustration, suddenly prostrated himself. Please, I'm sorry. Forgive me, it was just a fling, you understand, right? She came on to me strongly and well, I just went along with it. Michelle screamed at Tom's words. What do you mean by that? Am I the one to blame? You're the one who said there was no love left for your wife, that things weren't working out. Michelle clung to and shook Tom. The drama unfolding before me was so cheap that I couldn't help but laugh. Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. Are you kidding me? What value does such a prostration hold, especially when you have no value to begin with? Mr. Johnson took over, his voice dripping with disdain. Exactly. Having seen incontrovertible evidence, I'll make sure you are punished accordingly. Your affair has led to the bank suffering the disadvantage of a mass account cancellation. You seem well aware of the disadvantages of account cancellations, so I assume you have no objections to the punishment. As Mr. Johnson posed the question, Tom could only hang his head low while Michelle cried out loud. I wish they would stop playing the victims until the very end. Leaving their fate in Mr. Johnson's hands, I left the room. By the time our conversation ended, the account cancellations had been completed, and I left the bank feeling refreshed. Later, Mr. Johnson informed me that both had been dismissed for their misconduct. Their affair had resulted in a significant loss of accounts for the bank, which was deemed to have a substantial negative impact. Unemployed, the two struggled to find work, unable to pay their apartment's mortgage, and were turned down when asking friends for money. Interestingly, Tom kept sending me messages and emails begging for reconciliation after divorcing Michelle, all of which I ignored. The laughably pathetic emails were forwarded to Sophia, and we enjoyed a good laugh. I also filed for compensation through a lawyer. Tom had the audacity to claim that since I started my company after our marriage, its assets should be divided between us. Unfortunately for him, the assets in the company's name are exempt from division. I thought divorce would be difficult, but working hard post-divorce has made me realize how happy I am. I even wish I had divorced sooner. Humans are strange creatures. With plenty of money to spend freely and no grievances, I've decided to live my life valuing myself more from now on.